I am someone who will look at Google Maps to look at the route multiple times, even to somewhere I've already been before. I will check traffic as soon as I wake up that day and still feel the need to leave earlier than I need to, which I inevitably do. I look to see if my flight is delayed the day before that I fly, and sometimes I look at what cities that plane is going to fly through on its way to Seattle and look up the weather in those cities to see if there's any chance of that thing getting delayed. I do not really like surprises. Being a musician that relies on everyone around him to be thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time, traveling with a lot of delicate equipment, with a lot of timeline-specific events, being a father and a co-parent, planning out everything that needs to be loaded into the car every week coming to church, I really don't appreciate surprises that aren't in the form of a new gluten-free restaurant, gas prices dropping, or Taco Bell bringing back an old item. But life, as it turns out, isn't much for sticking to a script. It's much more of an improv show, and it has a funny way of throwing you surprises that force you to completely rewrite your part. Sometimes it's really hard to see things going any other way than normal when normal has been that way for so long, and then an entire toolbox of wrenches gets thrown into your plans. A major rewrite came in early 2022 for me when I started dealing with epilepsy. My seizures did not originally present with the stereotypical symptoms and weren't triggered by the usual flashing lights or sounds. And speaking as a former laser artist at the Pacific Science Center, I have tested this out thoroughly. It's not obvious when I'm going through it or when they happen. And I was messaging some close friends in a Facebook group chat where we were normally sending guitar jokes and funny videos. And I was describing my, everything to them, and had a friend say, "That's exactly what I go through," and urge me to see a neurologist. And sure enough, it was a textbook case and a completely random source of that information and knowledge. And that was, I think, later in 2023. Fast forward to Thursday, March 13th of last year, 2025. It was the week of daylight savings time, making everything even shorter. I had just finished up the PowerPoints for Sunday. The kids had both had a dentist appointment that morning. It was about lunchtime. Both Megan and Evelyn are downstairs talking with the exterminator. There's a parent-teacher conference that starts in about 2 hours. By then, I had already had about 13 of my seizures for that day, which at that point, I wasn't used to having more than 2 or 3. I shut my laptop and started to close the curtains and transition the office into nursery bedroom mode when I started to feel the need to lay down. I remember messaging Megan that I wasn't feeling great, and the next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital. I remember Megan being really happy that I was awake because they weren't sure how I was going to be reacting or brain activity, whatnot. I was the lucky one who got to take a very long and expensive, scary nap while Megan was awake through it all and was rocking it at home and taking care of the kids and, being that rock. Suddenly, the most basic things of breathing, talking, crying, hugging, tasting, drinking were all luxuries and amplified, and if life wasn't taken for granted anymore. The invincibility I had always felt proved to be a fallacy, and it was terrifying. This was a horrible surprise. But in the middle of that fear, I found a different kind of strength. The control over my life wasn't guaranteed, and waking up with a new appreciation for each day was something I had heard of but never understood. It was also the first time that I had learned that a surprise, even a scary one, could teach me something profound about resilience. I knew I had to step back after being forcefully sat down, and that even though I thought I could handle everything, maybe I couldn't. I've learned a new appreciation for every detail of life. I swear. A realization that every decision is important, big or small. I learned to listen to my body, to advocate to myself, and to find stability even when things felt shaky. The care that I received from the medical staff at St. Joe's in Tacoma, my friends and family, the community here at St. Matthew's, all of it was eye-opening and made me realize just how much I was loved and cared for. I felt held by God's grace throughout my recovery as my sense of normal just got redefined once again. But this time, it was almost freeing. Being shaken up and realizing that I wasn't permanent made me appreciative of every step I take. My eyes viewed everything around me completely differently, and I was never happier to hug my children in my life. I had no one else to thank but God, and I continue to do so every day. Through multiple job turnovers and company acquisitions, health issues and childhood trauma, moments of deep insecurity and constant change, it leaves me wondering, what's next? Am I going to be okay? It's easy to feel lost in that kind of instability. But looking back, I realized what it was actually doing. It was training me. It was forcing me to adapt and to slow down and not just take things one day at a time, but truly enjoying today and not just checking off another day to get through to tomorrow. To learn new skills on the fly, to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and to not find my security in a job title or health status or finances, but in my own ability to pivot and grow. It's so easy to say, I can't do this until you don't have an option. But you step up, you learn. You find out that your capabilities are so much bigger than your comfort zone. You discover that the person that you are is often forged in the fires of the roles that you were convinced would break you. You lean on God to remind you who you are in the moments you don't recognize your reflection. Epilepsy, leadership, breaking the cycle of alcoholism, numerous career changes, none of these were in my 10-year plan. They were life's unscripted moments, but they are what have shaped me. God taught me that our real strength isn't how well we can write a script for our lives, but in how smoothly we can perform when life hands us a brand new one. Sometimes when life tries to surprise you, you can surprise yourself. Can I please be done now? Thank you.